Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. On this video, I'm going to be talking about December 2020 and for the sign of Scorpio. Now, as you may know, I really like to talk about the astrology, like to get into it, because I believe it's just a wonderful language. Hopefully, by knowing what various things represent, we get a better understanding that, we contribute to what happens to us in life. It isn't all about the slings and arrows of Saturn and Jupiter. We actually, well, the more we understand what's going on, the better able we are to handle the events. So I'm going to start by bringing up a chart here, which is the month of December for you. And as you can see, we seem to have a lot of hieroglyphs here at this bottom part of the horoscope. And that is indeed true. When we have a lot of planets clustered together in 2 or 3 signs, it tends to make for a very intense period, so that everything that happens is like full volume. And it's also a time when we may feel as though we don't really have enough time to really consider things. I mean, if something happens and it's quite important, we like time to think about what it means and what we should do. But when you've got planets clustered together like this, it's like something happens and something else happens, and suddenly we don't have time to really reflect. And that's really important. And December may not give you a lot of time to think about all the sort of things that are going on. And if you're watching me right now and saying, oh, to have something happen would be great, I think there's plenty happening in December. And of course, it's going to be different for every Scorpio. We've got the same themes going on, the same broad characteristics, but it's going to be different in every Scorpio's life. It depends on how old you are, what sex you are, what part of the world you're in, a variety of reasons. But somehow the essential theme will be the same. And what I'm going to start with here, this black moon and a black sun, actually, but that's because it's a solar eclipse. And it's not just a solar eclipse, it's a total solar eclipse. And that's happening on the 14th of December. And it's really important. And if you're lucky enough to live in South Africa or South America, you may be able to see it. You'll need special lens, of course, but it's a spectacular thing to see. And of course, that's the reason we astrologers over the centuries have taken note of eclipses when they occur, because we know big things are happening in the world. In ancient times, solar eclipses were always about the onset of war or the birth of a king or those kind of things. And obviously we tailor our astrology to modern times, which means certainly big events in the world tend to happen around eclipses. But they're not always quite so categorical in the sense of a birth of a king or the start of a war. This solar eclipse for you is taking place in the area of values. Now, this has a lot to do with money, how much, what you earn, your income, your attitude to money, but it's also self-value. It's about how you feel about yourself, what you offer the world. And there's that saying, we've heard everyone say it 100,000 times, you've got to love yourself. Well, I think that's very poor advice, because it suddenly makes it seem as though you should be very selfish and love yourself. But actually, what it means is you've got to love what you do. You've got to love what you do to earn money, and so you'll make money. You've got to love what you offer out to the world in terms of your values and what value you are to other people. And that's really the secret of the flow of money. You love what you do, you're likely to make more money at it. And if you love what you have to offer, then other people will love what you have to offer too. It's that kind of little magic, bat and ball game. What I would also say is that with a total solar eclipse there could be some really important things going on. First of all, with money, and secondly, with this whole idea of the value you place on yourself. If we look at money here, we could think that perhaps there's a large amount of money coming your way, which would be fabulous, wouldn't it? I mean, eclipses are random events. So you may come into money, or you may, suddenly make your business or however you earn money may suddenly do really, really well. But the opposite can be true as well, in that suddenly there's a financial crisis and you have to run around trying to fix it. But this is a total solar eclipse, so the effects are going to be more important, more long lasting. So, whatever happens around the time of an eclipse means that you have to start in a new direction. New directions are opening up. And if that's a new source of income for you, a new way to earn money, a new way for you to think of yourself and the value you place on yourself and others place in you, that solar eclipse, there's something new coming in here. And at the end of November, the 30th of November, a lunar eclipse was also on this axis of self-worth, finance. And that might have been the trigger for something to end. So if something ended around that time or is about to end, maybe you're listening to me in the first couple of days of December, then that's all part and parcel of this very important new beginning, because you can't make a new beginning if you've still got old stuff on the same stage of life. Some of that stuff has to go. So you need to be very fatalistic about the things that don't work out or fade or happen in a way that you're not happy about, because they are paving the way for this new beginning. And I must also add here, I'm looking at your December from the solar perspective, but you will have a natal chart, and that total solar eclipse will be somewhere else in your natal chart. So there'll be two kind of effects coming from this mightily important event. But all I want you to focus on really and think about is this idea of a new chapter beginning. And you can't take all the old stuff with you. So whether you decide to end something or to, get rid of a lot of clutter so that you're free to begin a new chapter, or whether things just end for you happily or unhappily, and that means something new's got to happen. It's meant to happen. That's what has to happen. Okay. Now, also in this first half of December, we have a very prominent Neptune. Sound like a prominent nose, but it means that Neptune is in pride of place. It's forming a lot of aspects. It's hooking up to the sun on the 9th of December and to Mercury on the 13th of December. And that's just before the solar eclipse. And in point of fact, before the lunar eclipse on the 30th of November, Neptune turned stationary direct. So we have a lot of Neptune. And we're really in the weeds with Neptune. We really are. We don't know where we should be going. We get tied up and, going down the wrong channel. And there's a lot of disinformation doing the rounds. And you need only to look at all the news programs to see the different versions of events and to be talking to people and the different views people have about what's real and what isn't real. And I mean, conspiracy theories, well, they're going to be going gangbusters as we sort of start this first half of December. But keep your feet on the ground. Believe only what you know to be fact. And of course, this applies to, let's look at money again. If you're making transactions, especially online, you're making purchases, it'll be easy to purchase something that isn't right. You won't like it, or it's not the right thing. And you may actually be on the wrong website, and you may actually do something silly with finance. So it is important in those first 14 days to be very, very careful with financial transactions. Really check and double check your movements, and that way you won't make any silly mistakes. And the same really with communications. If somebody sent you a message and you haven't got enough time to really read it properly, don't bang something off in response, because you've probably missed something truly, truly important and you've got the wrong end of the stick. And of course, other people can misunderstand you. So be really clear with your directions and instructions and really clear about your feelings. I mean, usually you are Scorpio, you're a very all or nothing sign, a very black and white sign. Most people know exactly where they are with you, even though you may move in mysterious ways. It's obvious how you feel about someone. So, but perhaps sometimes other people do get the wrong end of the stick, even so. So be careful with this spread of information and disinformation. Now, you've probably been looking at this little trio here. It's a very interesting little trio. It's actually Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon. You can obviously see the moon there. And that's all in the sign of Aquarius, because Saturn enters Aquarius on the 17th of December, Jupiter enters Aquarius on the 19th of December, and the moon accompanies Saturn in Aquarius on the 17th. So it's like a real kind of drum roll of things in Aquarius. And if you're looking at me now and saying, well, what's the Aquarius got to do with me? Well, we can see it's in your horoscope, isn't it? It's there somewhere. But also, it's one of your fixed tribe. Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, you belong to a family, a fixed family. So planets that move into any of these four signs, yours included, are going to have a much bigger, more dynamic impact on your life. Now, on my year ahead, which will be available on my website from the end of December, I really talk about what Jupiter's transit of Aquarius and the fourth house for you will be, and Saturn. I've gone into it in quite some detail. But just here and now, very quickly, it has a lot to do with the roots of life, with the things that anchor you to this world. It can be home life, it can be family life, but it's also the foundations of the future. So imagine you've got Jupiter going through there, which is going to make things bigger. Yes, maybe you'll move to a bigger and better home. Maybe the family will expand by marriage or by birth. Or maybe other things will happen that make you feel, my goodness, is my world getting bigger on the home front? Yes, it is. And also laying your plans down. These should be big plans, because when Jupiter is at an important angle in your chart, you want to take advantage of all your opportunities, because they won't last. They'll be gone. And certainly with Saturn following in Jupiter's wake, more difficult times follow that in terms of maybe trying to raise money or get the thing that you want or do all the things that you want. So make hay while the sun shines in 2020 to 2021. And also around this period of December, the 21st of December, 17th, 18th, 19th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, make a big and bold statement. It can be anything. It can be about a relationship. It can be about your future. It can be about anything you want, but make it big and bold, because that's your statement made on this powerful trio. And I do believe, especially things that are written, the action of writing something actually makes something a lot more real. You'll bring those things into reality. Now, all of this sounds great and good, but it's not all perfect towards the end of the month. And the reason being this planet here, Mars, and this planet here, Pluto. Mars and Pluto are squaring up to each other, and it's an angle of tension, an angle of aggravation, and it's on Christmas Eve, for heaven's sake. But we will be working our way towards that 7 days before then, so there will be elements of what Mars and Pluto have to offer you. I think I mentioned this in my written forecast for that week, my weekly forecast. It's about the elephant in the living room. Often when we've got Mars and Pluto, we have to confront something. And what do we need to confront sometimes? It's the thing we don't want to talk about. So Mars and Pluto often just managed to get that thing we want to avoid right into the center of our affairs. And on Christmas Eve, if you're lucky enough to be with family, or whether you're being with family virtually, there's probably a hot potato in there. But also just practically, when you've got Mars and Pluto at odds, it's sometimes more difficult to get things done. It's like the opposition party not allowing you to get your way. And I also think if you've got, as often happens when you've got a big event coming up. Um, Something goes wrong, whether it's with machinery or the lighting or the weather. And so, what I've told every single sign to do as we approach Christmas, and certainly by Christmas Eve, is have a backup plan. Have something you can do if one or two major things doesn't work. And you'll be so glad that you did that, because you may not need them, those plans, but if you do, you've already thought them through. Last but not least, the last thing that happens on the month, we're talking about the 30th of December, a full moon, sun in Capricorn and the moon in Cancer. And I'm going to come back into the room just to talk about this at the end. I like the idea of a year ending on a full moon. I mean, yes, technically the 31st is the end of the year, not the 30th, but it's as near as damn it. And I promise you, on the 31st, you'll still see that globe in the sky, and it will still be in Cancer on Christmas, on New Year's Eve. And I think generally this is about saying, or wrapping up 2020 and saying, let's put that in a box. Let's put it away. Yes, of course, we'll think about it, but we're not going to let it impinge on our new year and what's to come in 2021. Because remember, we are going fully into the age of Aquarius in 2021 with lots of things to offer, as well as some warnings, but we'll get to that some other time. But the idea of wrapping 2020 up, and not just 2020, just thinking about the past decade and all the things that have happened, and sort of counting your blessings, but also, not hanging on to things that need to be shed. Remember, I talked about that idea of the total solar eclipse, which is a whole new chapter opening for you. And it's no use dragging along the old stuff with it. Start afresh. So thank you for watching. I hope you've got lots out of my monthly guide, and I look forward to being here this time next month for January, and also on my twice monthly, which tends to follow the course of the new moon, full moon cycle. Bye for now.